Ooh.
Alrighty then.
Palm Desert men and women in uniform, standing tall for our political and economic freedoms around the world. Let's always remember them in our thoughts and prayers. Their efforts abroad and our support have kept America strong. That message was courtesy of your good friends at Custom Care Solutions Caregivers, 42201 Beacon Hill in Palm Desert. They're always working to keep our community moving in a positive direction.
That's right. It's the morning show here on ABC News Radio, KMET 1490 AM. I'm Aaron Michael Sanchez. Glad to have you with us on today's show. We got lots to talk about, including the latest. It's almost September. Wow. 2021 is where it's at. Where were you last year or the year before? 2019, 2020. Crazy, crazy, crazy time we find ourselves in, right? Coronavirus started early last year, and now here we are a year and a half later, and we're still dealing with it, just different variants. So good to know that we're ahead of it on the first 8 variants. On the rest of the variants, we're still trying to figure it out. A lot of people are concerned. Here's some of the top headlines. New Zealand has reported their first virus vaccine death. That's not a good thing. However, it's a good thing that they're ahead of it because, as we know, New Zealand had announced several weeks back that they were going to put a lockdown as soon as possible, even though they had just had a couple of cases suddenly arise. But they did exactly what they do, which is make sure that the majority of their people are safe. And although no one likes to actually admit it, they like to actually, of course, do the most difficult thing. And sometimes people go, well, should the U.S. do it? I know I've had that conversation with others. And sometimes people say, well, no. I say hit it like big and quick, get over it, and then you can get back to work or then some, or have fun and then some. That's why New Zealand at least is ahead of it in many respects. And they do the right thing ahead of time. Having said that, others are wondering, well, again, how bad is it going to get here? And the question of the day is, depending on the variant that you might get and or suffer from, you may get it and you might get well, and then you might not. So as far as New Zealand goes, there's a lot of answers there that they're trying to figure out. But a lot of questions around the world as well on other things. We'll get to that in just a moment. We got Mr. Jesse Sanchez over there. Good morning, Jesse.
Good morning.
So, you had a fun weekend, I gather. You got to see a movie. What movie did you get to see?
Oh yeah, I did get to watch a movie. I watched it on Hulu. Um, it's called Vacation Friends, and it's about this couple. They go to Mexico and they meet this other couple, and yeah, they're a bit crazy. So it was remarkably funny. I wasn't expecting too much from it because I don't expect much from John Cena.
Yeah.
So I enjoyed it. He was crazy in this movie. It was fun.
So John Cena's in it. Okay, that sounds like fun then. Yeah, he's a fun guy.
Yeah, he is in this movie. He's really crazy. There's I'm trying not. I don't want to spoil the movie, but there's a scene in the trailer. This is from the trailer where they're drinking margaritas and he's like, "Why isn't this salt very salty?" He always like, "Oh, that's not salt. It's a drug." I'm not gonna say which drug, but yeah.
Got it. Okay, so good to know. All right, so check it out. It's on Hulu. Hulu, Amazon, or Netflix? Which are you a fan of?
Uh, I don't know. They all have different things that I watch, so I alternate between them.
Got it. Okay. Lots of stuff going on in the world. Well, the whole question, of course, is what's happening in Afghanistan, and there's a lot of latest updates, and we're going to that right here. A lot of the updates are still coming in. At least one death toll expected to go up considerably. That's according to Louisiana. Louisiana is also in the news. Lots of real news happening right now, and a lot of people are wondering what's going to happen next. ISIS-K have claimed the rocket strike on the Kabul airport. ISIS-K has claimed responsibility for the attack that targeted Hamid Karzai International Airport in Kabul with 6 Katyusha rockets on Sunday, according to issued by ISIS-K on Monday and translated by Site Intelligence Group. ISIS-K claimed the rocket landed with direct hits. The message comes just before nightfall in Kabul and one day before Biden's August 31st military withdrawal deadline from Afghanistan. So this is another attack that has happened as of late, and so we're still getting more information on this. ISIS-K also claimed responsibility for last week's suicide bomber attack outside the airport, which left 13 U.S. service members and 169 Afghanians dead. Over the weekend, though, they did strike 2 targets in Afghanistan, including a person believed to be planning future attacks. An Afghan health official reported that in one of those strikes, 6 Afghan civilians were also killed, including 4 children. This is not the time to give up, especially for Americans and those that are working together around the world to try to, get it better than it currently is. But yet a lot of people have questions. Are we going to be safe through it all? Of course, here in the home front in the U.S., the answer is yes. On the front in Afghanistan, the answer is still waiting to be determined, depending on what Biden does next, which I do and am very hopeful that he'll do the right thing. So far, he hasn't backed down. He hasn't said, okay, we're just going to walk away entirely. If anything, he's making true, but we're kind of on borrowed time with the August 31st deadline, which I say it's just a deadline. Who cares? The fact that they are moving in on the area, and even though they're not technically the Taliban, who's to say they're not working for the Taliban to just kind of say, well, that's them, that's not us? Because isn't that what people do, Jesse? Don't they pretend?
Oh yeah, most definitely. I yeah, I wish it was just a magic wand that we could just make it go back to like the way it was in the 60s and 70s.
How so?
Just so that just Afghanistan. I'm just looking at the pictures that remember on Friday you were showing like the videos,
Yeah. Oh, right. Yeah.
right? And I'm just like I looked at the video again after work and I'm just like what happened? What did we do and other countries do to this country that just made it turn up like this? And it makes me feel bad.
Yeah, and what Jesse's talking about, if you missed our show as of Friday, we showed a YouTube video, which it actually got taken down probably because of copyright, so I can't really show it entirely. But it showed Afghanistan in the 60s and 70s, and oddly enough, it looked like the 40s and 50s here in America. Women were being educated, and honestly, if you were not told it was in Afghanistan, you would think it was technically like, I don't know, in San Bernardino back in the 50s. And there were record stores, and they were like more on Western culture and regular skirts. They weren't even mini skirts until like the late 70s, and it was more of a regular culture, not in robes or in such that looked like they were from Jerusalem back in the day of 8 BC or something. So they were definitely with the times, but then they got pushed back in the times. If you don't know the history, technically in the late 80s and early 90s when they started to get a lot of situations that happened there. Of course, we think about all the world, and we think about all of the problems around the world, but we always hear about crisis in the Middle East ever since technically mid 80s, when you remember the war on Iraq, Iran, and all those things were happening around the same time, so they've had to deal with it all to the east of Iraq and Iran. Iran is to the west of Afghanistan, in case you don't know your map, because I could guarantee you I didn't know my map as of a few days ago when I said, wait a minute, where's everything at? Where's Jerusalem? Where is Israel in comparison to this? And so I said, okay, so you got to think in ways like kind of like a military commander would. If you've ever watched like History Channel, or you watch certain things and you say, okay, what happened back in the day? There's a video game which a lot of people like to play, which is called Civilization. Have you ever played it, Jesse?
No, I have not. I've heard of it, but I've never had the opportunity to play it.
Oh, it's a fun game, oddly enough. It's a fun game because it's one of those games that you actually just you get to get all your soldiers and then some, but they reenact a lot of like real battle scenarios, and so you kind of have to become victor over other ones, and then you have all the groups, kind of like those games where they have you select a bunch at a time, and then they kind of all do things for you. They build houses, they build huts and stuff, right? Civilization, like create a civilization. You kind of play God in a weird video format, and then you just kind of help put your civilization against their civilization, and you hope that you kind of can come out as the victor. But those games are really good and they're very popular. Age of Civilizations. If you haven't gotten it for your kids, it's a good one to kind of put into your education curriculum to say, okay, this is the way it is. But when you think about it from a global scale, like you think of Nazi Germany and all that way back in the day, generals had to think in a way where they have, like, if you envision movies where they have, like, little ships and they push them in certain areas on a little map, in the war room is what they call it. And then they say, okay, we're positioning this one here and this one there. It's kind of an up-down scenario, but each and every one of those ships have, lots of lives to take care of, because they're not, in a way just like, okay, like a video game, like, okay, well, we could stand to lose these people. Every life is important because those lives are connected to other lives. So as a military commander, you have to think in a way of what's going on with the Taliban, what's going on with Afghanistan, and what is the stronghold that they want to get, and where are they going next. The ISIS are pretty broad in range of where they attack. Why are they all attacking right there, right now? Are they wanting to seize control of Afghanistan? I would say the answer is no, not really. But are they helping the Taliban? Once the U.S. actually admits to that, then they'll say, okay, we have full reason to go at the Taliban. Because I can guarantee you the Taliban are at the core of the planning stages as well. They just like to kind of be in the neutral zone of, well, we're here, we're not really part of that, and there you go. But guaranteed they're giving information over to where you guys are at, and then some. So administration, pay attention to that, because they're working together. Once you realize that, you go back to the Taliban, you say, yeah, we're going to remove you from power from bombing at us. After all, we're trying to save people, not hurt people, and there you go. Which, again, there's been a lot of situations happen there as of late, and we're all getting the information as we speak. So since the end of July, 122,000 people have been relocated from Kabul. So good job. They actually really ramped it up as of this last time period. That's a lot of planes coming and going. At the same time, you shouldn't be bombed in the meantime. There were no signs of casualties after 5 rockets were fired. However, of course, that is what is said as of right now. The official said the U.S. military's anti-projectile CRAM fired to intercept the incoming rockets. Now, the good news is that they have this. The bad news is that these things are still happening. So you have to be aware of it, because if you're in any one of these areas, you have to always fend for your life. This is why people are trying to get out of there. Some people don't understand what that is, but when you have U.S. Americans which actually move there to, look for a better life, you say, why would you do that? But that was the scene right there, and that's a situation that is still being talked about, and a lot more information as well. 5 rockets, again, were fired toward the Hamid Karzai International Airport. Again, these are rockets. Yeah, from ISIS. They have rockets, okay? ABC News wants to assess whether there were any casualties inside the airport, and, of course, much more on that. But, again, the U.S. is fighting for their life just to stay alive there, and so they need everything and then some to help them out. ISIS-K terrorists were loading a car with explosives before the drone strike. 6 were killed, including 4 children. 2 ISIS terrorists were seen loading what appeared to be explosives into the trunk of a car that was taken out by a U.S. Hellfire missile. So a lot of things happening. That's not the place you want to find yourself, but you got to say, oh my God, is it getting worse there? And what are we going to do about it? So there you go. All right, people, we're going to take a quick break here on the morning show. We got more right after this. And keep your comments coming in. Let us know what you did this weekend. We need a little good news. We'll be right back with more right after these messages. Stay tuned. That photo right there really gets me.
Yeah, it does, especially when you said that kids were killed.
Yeah.
That's never happened.
Well, the question is on that photo, like, who's the child, right?
Yeah.
And did she lose her mom? Did she pick her up from, like, the side? Was her baby abandoned? There's so many questions that go on with that picture right there, right?
Mm-hmm. Let's see.
Oh, wow. Ed Asner died. Oh.
And you ruined my mood for the morning.
I am so sorry. I just saw it. I'm so sorry. I just saw it.
Wow.
I met him once. He's a nice guy. I'm sorry. I know.
Oh my.
But he was
What else?
91. He lived a very good life.
That's true.
Like,
That's true.
I hate to say it like that. But I just go like, how do I say it?
I know everybody passes away. It's just never a nice thing.
You liked it. Why did you have a soft spot for him? Just out of curiosity.
Because he's Santa from Elf.
Oh.
It's Santa. But I've seen other things as I was growing up. But he's been in a lot of stuff.
Yeah, he has been. I remember him as in Up, right?
The old guy.
Yeah, that's him.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense now.
With the dog, right? Which goes like.
Another heartbreaking movie straight from the beginning. It's like, oh my God.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That movie tugs at your heartstrings.
Yep. I love the dog. The dog was funny. Squirrel!
Squirrel! That's funny.
Yeah.
We have 20 seconds.
All right.
Can't you see with just a few seconds?
That's right. It's the morning show here on ABC News Radio KMET 1490 AM. We are enjoying each and every one of you, and I guarantee you right now, all of us got a little sad right now. Just got this information in. Not happy to say it. Actor Ed Asner recently just passed away from us. Died at 91. The man who actually became a star in his middle age as Lou Grant in the hit comedy The Mary Tyler Moore Show. Of course, he had an acting career way before that, but was made to be really known during that time. Later in the drama, Lou Grant died Sunday. He was 91. Asner's representative confirmed the actor's death, and I hate it when it comes through like that, but you know, we all need to know versus social media and times when people say it happened when it didn't. Asner's official Twitter account included a note from his children saying, "We're sorry to say that our beloved patriarch passed away this morning peacefully. Words cannot express the sadness we feel. With a kiss on your head, good night, Dad. We love you." Built like the football lineman he once was, he was a journeyman actor in films and TV when he was hired in 1970 to play Lou Grant on The Mary Tyler Moore Show. For 7 seasons, he was the rumple boss to Moore's ebullient Mary Richards. He called her Mary. She called him Mr. Grant at the fictional Minneapolis TV newsroom where both worked. Later, he would play the role for 5 years on Lou Grant. Asner's character had caught on from the first episode of Mary Tyler Moore when he told Mary in her initial meeting, "You've got spunk. I hate spunk." The inspired cast included Ted Knight as Ted Baxter, the dim-witted news anchor, Gavin MacLeod as Murray Slaughter, the sarcastic news writer, and Betty White as the manipulative, sex-obsessed home show hostess Sue Ann Nivens. Valerie Harper and Cloris Leachman played Mary's neighbors. Both saw the characters spun off into their own shows. Asner's the third Mary Tyler Moore alum to die in recent months. Leachman died in January and MacLeod died in May. Of course, the 99-year-old White is the lone surviving main cast member from Mary Tyler Moore. Mary Tyler Moore was still a hit when the star decided to pursue other interests, and it was brought to an end in the 7th season with, of course, a very funny finale in which all the principals were fired except for the bumbling Baxter. Asner went into Lou Grant, his character moving from Minneapolis to Los Angeles to become city editor of the Tribune, and the rest is history. Now, some of you remember him in different ways. Jesse, you remember him most recently from a very, very funny show known as Elf. Can you bring some awareness on that?
Yes, he'll always be a special place in my heart when he plays as Santa Claus in the TV show, or not the TV show, the movie Elf. But I'm looking at his filmography, and he has voiced so many roles in TV shows that I've watched over the years, and I'm in shock on who he's voiced. So it's kind of sad that I'm seeing this now, and I didn't realize that it was him that was voicing all these characters. So very, very sad.
Yeah, it is. It's one of those things. I think the movie Up from Pixar's release, oddly enough, in 2009 came out. I can't believe it's been that long. But I remember just his voice being so that voice for the Up character and everybody that's seen Up. I mean, that is just a heartwarming, very touching movie all the way from beginning to end, right? It's just everybody knows the dog that easily got distracted. Squirrel, right? It was just a thing that the dog just, got a little, very, I'm very smart. I love you so much. And, at the same time, he got distracted because of a squirrel. But at the same time, he was able to always, as gruff as he was, you always knew he had a big heart, no matter what. And I will say, my memory of him was seeing him in person at it was technically the Wizard World convention in Anaheim, when Wizard World had the comic convention quite regularly here in Anaheim. And honestly, it was just a very quick moment, and I'm like, oh, there's that guy, and he was signing autographs, and people were lining up, and he met my little cousin, which his name's Alexander. And I remember when Alexander kind of saw him for the very first time, and he was very young, and I saw him with Crystal, and he was very kind all of a sudden to the kids. He's a little gruff to the adults, like, yeah, what do you want? But to the kids, you saw his true heart come out, and you saw kind of like a, I'm sure he would never like to think of it this way, but kind of like a great grandpa like heart come out and just kind of be good with whatever child was there. And so he was very much like the character, like, don't talk to me. But at the same time, when it was like to the little kids, like he just had like, oh, look at you, you're so cute. And he, and in that moment, I saw like a variety of his personality in one way, of like very gruff in 1 minute, and then just kind of like misunderstood in the very next, and then just very kind all of a sudden again to those very youthful people. So I know some like would see him in person, like, but at a comic convention, you're signing autographs and you're doing things. And, I didn't know how old he was technically at the time, which he must have been like 83 or 84 or so, because that was a while back. But, that was my memory of Ed Asner. And I remember it being a good one because of the way he treated little Alexander, and he was just so kind to him. And it was just one of those things where, you just got to be great with the people around you. So there you go. Shadow says he is a legend, and I agree with that 100%. So there you go. Ed Asner, again, many people, not happy about it because, of course, you want them to have more days than not. But that's the latest. And again, our prayers and thoughts go out to his family. He will be for a forever legend and then some. Right, Jesse?
Oh yeah, he will be a legend forever. Yeah. Do you remember that TV show Gargoyles?
Yeah, I remember Gargoyles. Loved it.
Yeah, he voiced one of the gargoyles on that show.
What? No way. Which gargoyle?
He voiced the character Hudson. So yeah, I did not know that. So I'm looking at his filmography. I'm just in awe of everything that he's voiced, all the characters.
Oh, Hudson, the elderly one.
Yeah.
I forgot that one. He was like the one with spunk that wanted to go in and like hurt everybody, right?
I think he was the older one.
Yeah, it was Spunk who wanted to go and hurt everybody. Exactly. Well, as much as Disney would allow it, obviously.
Yeah.
I need the movie to come back out or something. I think they were working on that, by the way. They need that. If you guys don't remember Gargoyles was a really good TV show that I grew up on. I don't know how many seasons they had. How many seasons did they have? 2 or 3? What are you looking up?
Good question. I think they had 3 seasons and then they had a spin-off season at the end.
Yeah.
So I heard they were gonna bring it back and like revamp it, which would be cool because I would love to have that a new story. But yeah, I would love for them to bring it back so the younger kids can experience the joy of gargoyles.
Yeah, there was just something special about that, right? And there you go. That's the voice he, characterized along with the main one, always helping out and always being the one like ready to go town to town with all the rest. So there you go. Fun stuff. All right, people, we got to take a quick break. We'll be back with more right after these messages. Stay tuned.
Well, I must be dense on the news because I didn't even know there was a hurricane.
Oh yeah, there is. Yeah. Well,
No, I'll say
that's the one where they're saying there's a lot of stuff happening. I'm still trying to get that information.
yes. Thank you, Diana, for letting me know about that. I did not see when I stopped looking at the news for like a couple days. Boom, something happens.
Everything and then some, right?
Ugh.
Well, they're saying Ida is similar to Katrina, but stronger and smaller. So it's kind of like, what did we learn from Katrina, right? We hear that name, we're like, oh God, right? That was a horrible time for Louisianians and then some, right? The whole nation was like, how do we help out? And then everything was slow, everything was bad. People were underwater for days because, of course, the what was it? The what do they call them? The levees. The levees broke, right? And I didn't even understand what a levee was, right?
I have no idea what a levee is. You talk about it, I have no idea.
Yeah, well, Louisiana sits below sea level. So imagine like these huge walls that keep the majority of. It's kind of like sunken from the other, like, you know how they say above sea level and then below sea level? So one of the dams had a situation and it was leaking, and then it created one of the levee walls, I think, to break down and then flood the entire area. So all the area got flooded.
Wow.
But yeah, Ida, let's see the latest. So there's a lot of that happening right now. I'll pull up some photos just to kind of bring some perspective there. Yep, there we go. Exactly. That's probably the best.
Oh, and it's a category 4. Good lord.
Yeah, that's not good. That's not good at all.
Oh my god.
So we got stuff on the home front. We got stuff on across.
What a day to be an earthling. Or made to survive.
Made to survive, yeah. Well, at least we have help, right? We're not alone on this earth, thank God.
Yes.
So here is a photo of one situation. Look at that car. That car, you need flood insurance for cases like this. This is one of those days you just,
Oh my lord. Are you oh, see, yeah, when you're in California, you don't even think of things like this.
No, you don't. You really don't.
Wow. Yeah, we deal with our own stuff here. Fires, earthquakes.
Yeah, well, earthquakes would probably be the closest, like, disaster. That'd
Yeah.
be, like, equivalent somewhat, but you do not want to be underwater for days. That's for sure. Here's another
Nope.
scene right there. So see how the water's like right there, and then like, see that? That's like a beach scene, but that
got-
still looks pretty ominous. I need a title.
5 seconds and we're coming back.
Okay. Welcome back.
Welcome back.
It is
Yes,
the
it
morning
is the
show
morning
here on
show here
ABC News Radio KMET 1490 AM. Download our app. It's free. Diana Chenevert and social media says, praying for those in Louisiana affected by Hurricane Ida, the first responders and Cajun Navy who will be on the ground rescuing people, pets, and animals. Millions are without power. Lots of damage. Cell phone towers are down, so communication is spotty. I'm very thankful my family and friends are safe, though my heart also goes out to evacuees and those in need. Yes, very true. And we have the latest on that as well. Lots of information still coming in. The latest, it's barreling through Louisiana, Hurricane Ida. It's making landfall in the state as a Category 4 That was as of yesterday, by the way, afternoon. It was one of the strongest hurricanes on record by wind speed and pressure to roar ashore in Louisiana. Now it's a tropical storm. Still, the tropical storm doesn't really, whenever they say tropical, it sounds as though like, ooh, vacation time, right, Jesse? It doesn't quite give the true expression of the meaning. It just means that it got down, it lost a lot more of its power as it came through on land. Does that make sense?
It does. It does. Whenever I think tropical storm, I'm thinking, oh, just a little breeze, little rain.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but it's not. Just it's still bad. Okay, so don't let that word tropical storm. I can see someone. It's not that bad. FEMA. It's a tropical storm now. Come on. No, it's very bad. It's hitting on the 16-year anniversary though of the other very terrible storm in the same area, Katrina, which was technically a Category 3 hurricane. Hurricane Katrina unleashed, of course, a series of events taking lives of more than 1,800 people and leaving more than $100 billion worth of damage in its wake. Now, Ida's latest forecast is it's now about 40 miles southwest of Jackson, Mississippi. It's still bringing flash flood warnings to Louisiana, Mississippi, and Alabama, by the way. So those in that area, of course, have to be very careful with it and make sure to, be cautious, be cautionary, and be careful where you drive. And then some. You never know when the area that you're driving, A, might be flooded, and or B, you might end up, careening off the road because of the slippery conditions if you don't have new tires and or then some. There's a lot of bad things that can just happen out in the world. So, of course, be prepared for that. Make sure your emergency contacts are aware that you're okay and or not, or make sure that you have a way of communicating even if the phone lines go down or power goes out. Always make sure you have a backup and then some. Always have a plan rather than not. Very, very, very important. Always be careful. Always be mindful of your surroundings. And just remember, these type of things can all of a sudden happen, especially in flood areas. And if it has happened for quite some time, just be careful of that as well. Up to 18 inches of rain in Louisiana, up to 9 inches fell in Mississippi. That's a lot all at once. Again, 18 sounds like not a lot, but 1.5 foot of rain, which can cause mudslides and then some. It's really bad. Now, there's also a tornado watch in Mississippi, Alabama, and Florida. By Tuesday, though, Ida will move northeast into the Tennessee River Valley. By Wednesday night into Thursday, it will track into the northeast, dropping up to 6 inches of rain. That's the latest forecast. Major flooding is possible along the Interstate 95 corridor from New York City to Philadelphia. So you got to plan ahead. Again, all of those agencies that do exactly what they do for the Biden administration, I hope that they're being called and then some to be ahead of it. And then some. We gotta be careful ahead of time. The Louis Armstrong New Orleans International Airport, they're conducting damage assessments as they said their flights are canceled as of today. The airport added that passengers should check directly with their airlines for more information. The Karnofsky Tailor Shop, which is a historical landmark in New Orleans, is one of the multiple buildings that actually collapsed when Ida walloped the city. Now, for those that have been to Louisiana, whether it be on vacation or otherwise, you have probably seen this location quite often. And whenever you hear of kind of a long-standing landmark all of a sudden kind of collapse in the middle of a hurricane, you go, oh my goodness, how bad is it? And so the latest is this. It is bad. And if you guys know the time in the area, the Brick Two-Story Shop, which is a former tailor business in the Central Business District, dates back to 1913, where Louis Armstrong worked before embarking on his legendary jazz career. The family that owned the shop provided a second home for Armstrong and loaned him money to purchase his first cornet, according to the National Park Service. So that area is definitely going to need a lot of rebuilding. Of course, it's always seen in a lot of movies because that area is very common in movies as well. Louisiana has given a lot of good tax credits towards the rebuilding of Louisiana ever since Katrina, especially to the movie industry. So a lot of movies have been made ever since then, and that's usually a good way to kind of kickstart the area when they had a sudden loss of both life and, of course, property, and needed kind of to revamp their own area. So they gave a lot of movie tax credits based on if you spend money here, then we'll give you up to a percentage in tax kind of rebates is the way it works. So a lot of movies ended up there. So many of you have seen that. And of course, a lot of you remember, of course, downtown Disney and how the area, the Jazz Cafe kind of takes kind of a center stage of like Louisiana. If you've been to the Louisiana Bayou or the shops around there in Disneyland, you kind of get that same feeling because oddly enough, Louisiana was always a very close, dear place to the Disney family as well. So, of course, a lot of movies take place there, a lot of cool stuff, and then some. So, all right, lots of questions, but we've got some answers around the corner right after these messages. Stay tuned. All right. Let's see. Diana Shinavera says people probably will not be able to return for quite a while. The I-10 is closed. Parts of Highway 90 is underwater. It will take time for workers to secure the roads, remove fallen trees, and pick up the roofing nails so people can get in and their tires will not be ruined. Tire shops make a fortune after hurricanes. Several cell phone towers were blown down and communications are spotty from Baton Rouge past New Orleans to Mississippi. 20 barges also got loose. Trees and power lines are down everywhere, so millions of people don't have power. I hope they don't, or I hope they took any food they had out of their refrigerators, or the fridge will be ruined. Depending on where they live, it also takes time for water to recede. That's true. After Hurricane Katrina, Rita, and Harvey, it was a month or so before people could return. When they do return, they may want to check on GasBuddy.com to see what gas stations are open and have gas. Good planning, Diana. Diana Shinavera, of course, living in Florida. I think around the Emerald Keys or thereabouts. And so there you go. But good information and very important information. Oh, and they also say if you're ever trapped in a flood, I remember watching this on one of those shows which like tell you what to do, always get out of the water. If you have like water up to like knee high or then some, stand on other things like a table or something else. Get above it. Don't stay in it because a lot of things can cut you. You could have gangrene. You might step on something. You might have a lot of things happen below the water. So you always want to make sure at least get rubber stuff or just get to where your body doesn't easily get cut, especially if you have diabetes or something else. Make sure to be careful. Right, Jesse?
That is true because you could have a cut on your foot from just some random event and then boom, there's some like infection in the water that you're going to get or bacteria. You never know. And then you're going to be amputating your leg off. And I've seen it.
And make sure, yeah, it's true. And make sure you have plenty of Fritos lying around because you light one of those things on and they could be lit for days. I think 3 days actually with the average Cheeto.
That is
not
true.
Cheeto, not Cheeto.
Fritos.
I'm sorry. Yeah, Frito-Lays.
Yeah, because that has a lot of like oil and grease, so you just take it, rub it.
Now I'm wondering if Cheetos work though as well. I wonder if
that's a waste of Cheetos though.
Not flaming hot Cheetos.
Okay, I'm done.
What? Come on.
20 seconds. You got me there. Okay.
Flaming hot. Yeah, fire grenades. Oh man.
10 seconds. Here we go.
That's right. We're on the morning show here on ABC News Radio, KMET 1490 AM, and we're happy to be alive. Happy to not be in the middle of a hurricane. However, if you are in the middle of a hurricane, get to shelter. Just wear your face mask and then some. These are always those things where you go, which is the worst situation? Don't create a worse situation to happen. Imagine if Katrina and coronavirus had happened way back then. Do you remember when ones would group up in what ended up becoming very unsanitary conditions already? But they were the big shelters, I think, in the stadium there, and because a lot of homes were underwater, and then some. Do you remember that, Jesse?
Oh yes, I do.
Yeah. So imagine everybody having coronavirus, or just a few having coronavirus, that big breakout there. So you don't want to create a worse problem, and then some. Make sure to have a face mask and then some as well. This is the latest. This governor I've had problems with for quite some time because he kind of just spells a lot of kind of dumb things. And he's always done it because I think him and Trump kind of got in the same room and they ended up loving each other too much. And I just feel as though it's almost like, okay, well, now what are you going to say about it? But maybe he's going to hold true to the same thing. I really don't know. I think this guy has a lot of potentiality, if that makes sense. But yeah, I would say this is the latest in his story, which you kind of say, okay, well, let's see what happens. I mean, technically, Trump got coronavirus, and then he was just like, it's okay, I'm now well. And he's also the one that said, we're only hit 120,000. And here we are, 600, how many? 680,000 now dead in just the U.S. alone. So, yeah, a lot of people all of a sudden dead over what was supposed to not be a big thing. I don't want to create panic. And yet, there you go. Here we are. So here's the latest. Here's the reason I'm talking about. Texas Governor Greg Abbott has issued another executive order doubling down on his banning of COVID vaccine mandates. The order blocks the mandating of any COVID vaccinations by any government entity. Abbott, who is fully vaccinated, tested positive for COVID-19 last week. Texas Governor Greg Abbott on Wednesday doubled down on his banning. The new order blocks governments from mandating vaccinations. The FDA approved Pfizer's COVID-19 earlier this week, and the Republican governor, who is fully vaccinated, tested positive for the virus last week, asked the state's legislature's special session agenda to discuss legislation around vaccine mandates and what exemptions should apply. Now, I'm not going to lie, I'm not necessarily for mandating you getting a vaccine because you should have the choice to decide whether or not you want it, especially because they're still somewhat new. And there are things that can or can't happen. I like that they give you an option which one you want to do. For my mom, I did the research. Johnson & Johnson's Janssen one actually was the better one of all of them. And she had no repercussions of it since then. Thank goodness. Having said that, I know many people that did get sick, and still they're starting to find new symptoms from some of the first two as well, even now, and seeing the correlation between those and more recent ones. So mandating that you get one particular one mandates a problem down the end. So I'm not necessarily against that situation. I'm just against his, for the last 3 months, we don't need face masks, and kind of throwing caution to the wind there. And I've said that before, and I'll say it again. This is what he said in a statement. Vaccine requirements and exemptions have historically been determined by the legislature, and their involvement is particularly important to avoid a patchwork of vaccine mandates across Texas. Abbott's order comes as coronavirus cases fueled by the transmissible Delta variant continue to surge across the country, especially in Texas. The executive order states no governmental entity can compel any individual to receive a COVID-19 vaccine. Now, again, that perspective is but he still has gotten COVID-19 since then, which goes back to it does not prevent you from getting COVID, and hopefully he'll get fine and be good of it. However, did he get it not wearing face masks? I don't know. I'm not going to make it like face masks are the end-all, be-all, because they're not. They're just an additional good layer to have, especially what I keep saying, N95s. Okay, this is a perfect example of an N95. All right. A lot of you wear regular masks. An N95 is what they would wear in hospitals. Okay, this is what nurses would wear, and then some. We're at a point where you could buy a box of 20 for $20 each. Okay, and then I do an additional thing by cleaning the outside and then some with a UV light in a box that kills anything else, so cold viruses or any other. So I'm able to use these more often than not, more than once, so it doesn't ring up the change. And technically there's some, and a lot of them that we've talked to in the past where you can wash them or put them in the wash and or take care of them, then just let them air dry. Very important, let them air dry, and then they'll be fine, right? But back to N95s, it doesn't cost much, but it's a much better layer, thicker layer, and it allows you to breathe in a much better way than a makeshift one. Just so you know, N95s are very important, or KN95s. I did the research, and technically those are the Asian version of what an N95 does here on the home front. N95s are made here more or less or approved by U.S. standards, but Asian standards. And I did the research way back when my sister got coronavirus. So very important. Just, do the research. But I would never be like, oh, no, don't wear face masks. Don't be safe from each other, especially going into the flu season, which is what we're starting to head into coming September, October, and November. So the numbers are looking not exactly great right now. We're hoping for them to be great sooner than later, of course, but don't buy into the whole, oh, okay, we're over it and then some and that's it, which I think some states are kind of buying into that, including Florida. But Florida's numbers speak exactly the opposite of what Governor, I think DeSantis has said. I can't keep these governors all in line, but they're usually dumb governors is my point, because they don't keep their people safe. Sorry, I'm just going to say it. If you keep your people safe, then you're smarter and wiser for having done even the most difficult or not popular thing, which, love him or hate him, Newsom always has done the more safe thing to do for those of California, technically. If you look at his role in all of it and you go, well, he had a hidden agenda, what, to keep people safe? His only hidden agenda perhaps was, okay, he didn't always abide by the same rules. Whoever fully 100% abides by the same rules. I'm not one to say, oh, he's the person who's going to save everyone. But I am here to say he made tough decisions easier than most during the Trump administration. But the Trump administration was kind of strong-arming people to kind of obey them and then some. Whereas the Biden administration is kind of like, okay, let's just make sure we all have what we need in the meantime, and then let's get through it. So, am I upset with the Biden administration with Afghanistan? Technically, no, not anymore, because the Biden administration has stepped up and said, look, we're not going to take it. We're not going to forgive you. And basically, we're going to make you pay for doing what you've done. And that's the right move to do. He's not a weak president. He's a strong president, and thank goodness we have him, and thank goodness we're getting ahead of all the things here on the home front, including the economy quite soon. I'm pretty sure that will be a situation as well. A lot of questions on that as well, a lot of questions and a lot of answers that a lot of people are looking for as to the stimulus plan. What will the stimulus plan cover? Will we be safe more than not? And I don't know if you've heard anything on that lately, Jesse, but do you know any of the latest?
We're getting another stimulus thing, or is it just for certain people?
Well, anybody earning 75,000, so I think that counts the majority of us.
Okay, we'll see.
Yeah.
Hopefully it'll get to the people that really need it and not the people that are just abusing this situation.
Yeah, I know. I hear it. The second California stimulus payments will start to be released to residents on Friday. The officer of Governor Gavin Newsom said Thursday, just so you know. Like the first payments, the second round of payments, called the Golden State Stimulus 2, will be issued in 2 weeks increments. That's according to the California Franchise Tax Board. 2 out of every 3 Americans that are Californians should be eligible for payments, which will be sent as either direct deposits or paper checks. Now, how do you receive them? Most qualifying Californians do not need to do anything besides filing a 2020 tax return due October 15th. If you have already submitted your tax return, there's nothing you need to do. For further questions, consult the California Franchise Tax Board's help section on their website. Now, the Golden State stimulus is key to lifting up those hit hardest by the pandemic. This is according to Governor Newsom in a statement. And supporting California's economic recovery, putting money directly in the hands of folks who will spend it on basic needs and within their local communities. Now, how much will you get? Well, that has to be determined. If you qualified for the first one and claimed a credit of 1 or more dependents, then you'll receive $500. If you did not qualify for that payment and did not claim a credit of 1 or more dependents, you'll receive $600. If you did not qualify for that stimulus and claimed 1 or more dependents, you should receive about $1,100. And if you qualify for the stimulus and did not claim a credit for 1 or more dependents, you do not qualify for the second stimulus payment. He signed a bill July 12th that includes $12 billion in relief for families hit hardest by the pandemic. He said the state's taken on the inequities laid bare by the pandemic, expanding our support for Californians facing the greatest hardship. The funds were drawn from the federal recovery funds and California's budget surplus Newsom said about 2/3 of residents will be eligible for the $600 payments. Those with children will receive an additional $500. So anything and then some will help. Those here in California, I say good job. I say keep doing the right thing as much as possible until we get through this entire situation. All right, people, I'm out of time. That's Jesse over there. Jesse, we'll see you tomorrow. Same place, same channel.
Yep. See you tomorrow.
Awesome. And for the rest of you, see you tomorrow as well. We got to get through this. We got to do it together, and we got to do it right, people. Love you all. Stay safe out there. Bye-bye.